Hello guys, welcome to the Fusion game. So in this tutorial I will show you how to start this thing and highlight the main features. So okay, I will go through the stuff in a moment. I will just starting it up because it takes some time. So this is how you enable each device, each pump. It has a switch like that, and most of the devices also have set points, so you can put it at predefined set point like 50 or 100. That's what I'm going to do, but you can also use the minus and plus signs to like define a precise set point which you want. So this is the cryostat. The cryostat needs it consists of several components. So first, which we want to have is a vacuum. You have two vacuum pumps for that. Then you reduce the shell temperature down to about 80 kelvins, and these two systems reduce the temperature of the actual cryostat to about below 5 kelvins. So all of these devices need to be enabled. So this is the primary feed, and there is a heat exchanger, and this is the main cooling of the cryostat. So you will usually keep this always enabled. The only moment you have to care about this if there is a malfunction. And I will also enable the salt heaters. Okay, I will explain this in a moment, just to show you. So this is our tokamak. This tells you the four components which are in deuterium, tritium, helium and other mass. So now it's full of other mass. What you want to do is use the vacuum pumps to eject this. So once I enable the pumps, you will see this start decreasing. We'll come back in a moment to this. And now let me explain to you how the cooling of the tokamak works. So we have a helium circuit. It's this one. It has two compressors. So this is the main cooling circuit. So when the tokamak heats up, this takes the energy, and then there is a heat exchanger somewhere in between, and the heat is transferred to the salt. So the salt, you have to melt it first. That's why I'm using the heaters. So you can see the temperature. The salt has two tanks, the cold tank and the hot tank. So if you imagine this circuit, like geometrically, the hot tank is somewhere above. This pump takes salt from the hot tank through the heat exchanger to the from the cold tank through the heat exchanger to the hot tank, which is at the bottom. So it exchanges heat with the helium, and this pump takes from the hot tank through the steam generators back to the cold tank. The steam generator is here. This is the whole water circuit, which is then used to generate electrical power. So now I'm just heating up this both salt tanks with the heaters. They will stop at 230 degrees. So these four parameters are the most important. So you have temperature in the hot tank, amount in the hot tank, temperature in the cold tank, amount in the cold tank. That's it for the moment. Now let's come back to our tokamak. So you can see the vacuum pumps at this level cannot work efficiently anymore. So now this is a moment where you want to enable the cryo pumps. But in order to use the cryo pumps, the cryostat has to be cool. It already is. So I will now enable them, and I will also enable this vent, because I don't want this other mass. It's useless to me. So I will just vent it. Let's start them. Okay. I can also disable the vacuum pumps. So now you see this is decreasing rapidly, and it's vented out. Later on, when you are removing some lower amounts of matter from the tokamak, there can be still remains on the fuel, which you would like to recover and reuse. Then you will put it onto these columns. I will just enable them now. We won't use them yet. So these columns separate stuff and put it back into the tanks, deuterium, tritium and helium tanks. The other matter is always vented. So later on we will use this. Now we are just venting it. So now before we start, we are supposed to make a process called baking. So the baking is done by heating up the tokamak, and once it's hot, the walls of the tokamak kind of bake and release some matter which is stuck to them. And we want to do this before we start the reaction, because if we started the reaction, then we would have this mass like entering the tokamak, which will poison the reaction. We don't really want this. So in order to do the baking process, we kind of reverse this thing, because there is a heat exchanger between the salt and the helium, and you see the helium is now cold, and we want to heat up this helium using the salt, which is already say hot, at least hotter. And as we have a heat exchanger between these two circuits, the heat exchanger will work both ways. It will just transfer heat from the hotter to the cooler stuff. So what I will do now, I will start the recirculating of the helium through the heat exchanger, and I will put this cold leg pump on. So now I'm taking the cold tank salt through the heat exchanger, and you can see that helium and the general tokamak temperature is rising. So I'm using this circuit in the reverse way than it's supposed to. I'm transferring heat from salt to the helium, but that works. And when the tokamak is heat up to this temperature, you should see that if I stop the pumps now, you should immediately see that the total mass, the other mass is rising. So this is due to the baking process. Exactly, this is what we want. So we want to generate as much of this mass as possible now and reject it with the cryo pumps. So this process will take a few minutes, but if we don't do it now, it will just poison our reaction. What is that? Okay, doesn't matter. The temperature naturally drops. This is another effect which we fight against. We can buy better insulation to fight this later on. I won't be doing this now. But anyway, when this temperature drops, you can always re-enable the heater to boost it up. So while the baking is still happening, I will maybe describe some of the other stuff to you. So basically these are the server upgrades. You should buy all the ones which are for free. These are the auto controls, so you are given them for free, so you can like work with them from the beginning. And later on, once you start earning money, you can like upgrade your plant. So you can buy better ion separation and better pumps, some heat shielding, better coils, ejection coil, and another 3 turbines are also available. So I won't be doing this now, but generally you can spend the server money on these upgrades, on maintenance, on salaries, and you can also buy fuel. Okay, so you can see the total mass is started to drop, so we are almost done with the baking. Of course, if I disable the pumps, it will still rise. It's still rising pretty quickly, so let's give it a little more time. But you don't need to do the baking until the very end. It's not really worth waiting that long. And you can see that the hot tank amount is rising because I have this pump on, which is not so good because actually I would like to start the game with very little in the hot tank and like fill it up with very hot salt. So what you can do, you can like enable this bypass. This bypass causes the salt to go back to the cold tank directly. It's not going through the steam generator. And as we don't really want to set up the turbine yet, so this is what we can do. So if I put 100% here on this pump, now I'm taking actually salt from the hot tank to the cold tank. So the cold tank amount will rise. Okay, I think we are pretty much done. This is dropping. So, okay. So I will rely a lot on auto control here because it's hard to do it manually. So I will first thing I will set the desired helium temperature. So the higher you put here, the higher temperature of the salt you will get. But you cannot go too high because this can affect the cryostat shell temperature and then also the cryostat temperature itself. So about 500 is the good value. Okay, I think this is enough. We still are going to get some of the other matter, but I think it's okay. So let me disable the pumps. Okay, it's rising a bit. I will disable this. I will continue to transfer the salt back to the cold tank for a moment. So this is on auto. And salt also on auto in the pulse mode. This is because we'll be doing pulses. We cannot like do a continuous reaction right now. And I will start injecting fuel. So I will enable these two pumps. They move fuel from the storage tanks to the storage and delivery. And this is where we get the fuel from to inject it to the tokamak. So I will now start injecting it. So if you hear an alarm like that, you can look at the annunciator and you can reset it with the acknowledge button. So each annunciator will have an acknowledge button. So this one will have it here, this one will have it here, because this one is for the turbine. And you want to have about 2/3 of fuel ratio, deuterium to tritium. So this is why I'm doing it this way. And you want about 1,000 of mass. And I can also start charging the coil. So once I started charging the coil, the matter is gathering inside of the tokamak. And you want to, this is how you set the rate of charge. So if you put it at 0, it's not charging. If you put it at 50%, it's charging at this rate. If you put it 100%, it's charging very quickly. And if you want to lower, you will have to click a resistor, and this discharges. Again, depending how many you choose, that's how quickly you discharge. So I suggest you to put this at 30% for a start, because it's the more the coils you add here, the quicker the reaction may actually run. So I want to put this at 30 and then like assess how is the reaction looking. And okay, we are at over 1000 already. Okay, let me heat up the salt. And yeah, I stopped fueling. We are pretty good in the ratio. So we can start the reaction now. So let me just check. This is on auto, this is on auto. Okay, I will disable this for now. So we have plenty of cold salt to use, and we can start. So in order to start the reaction, just remember to enable this blanket injection before you start. I will describe this later. And in order to start it, you need to enable these two devices for heating. So this is the neutral beam, and this one I will enable on auto control, and here I put the desired power output. I will put it initially at 3000 megawatts. So this is the radio heating. So the auto control will use this radio heating to control the reaction. The problem is that it cannot control it fully because the reaction self-sustains. So if you, for example, use too much coils, it can go much higher than what you have set up here. So you have to be careful with this. It's better to start with lower settings and then adjust rather than just get like explosive reaction. So once this rises to about 10 kiloelectronvolts, the reaction will start. You can observe it on this screen. So our matter is compressed in a nice donut, because this is a slice of the donut. And once the reaction starts, you will see output is rising. You can also see where is the reaction happening. And once this is rising comfortably, you can disable this neutral beam. And now the heating is at maximum, so the power is rising. Once we reach about 3000, the auto control will start reducing the radio heating. This is happening now, and this should like keep us more or less where we should be. So as auto control reduced the heating, the power dropped, so it will increase again, and this is how it is controlled. But we actually don't want to use a lot of heating because it's using a lot of electrical power. So now I will start slowly charging all the coils just to keep the reaction running. And as you can see, the deuterium and tritium is dropping. We are producing helium. So I will now start injecting those to keep more or less constant amount of fuel in the tokamak. Okay, should be more or less constant. And now I think I can try rising the power output up to about 4000. About 4000 is safe, because even if you go over it, nothing bad is happening. You should monitor the cryostat temperature. It's pretty low. Okay, so for higher efficiency I can actually try increasing the helium temperature a bit, but you have to be careful with this, because will cause the cryostat temperature to rise. And auto control is pumping from the cold to the hot tank. So this is the salt temperature after the heat exchanger. This is the temperature in the hot tank itself, so this will rise. I will actually heat up the cold tank to the maximum, so I get higher temperature here. And we are looking really good. So as for the blanket, so you can see whenever we have fusion, the blanket, this is the lithium blanket, is breeding tritium for us. Tritium is a very expensive fuel, and if you look at this, deuterium, okay, I don't have deuterium now. Tritium is very expensive. It's so much for only 100 milligrams. So you don't want to buy it, you want to breed it, and that's how we do it. The lithium blanket is creating tritium, and this helium which goes through the blanket is like collecting the tritium. So if you look at this first separation column, we have both tritium and helium here, and the tritium should go here. Because the separation is not perfect, some of the helium also goes into this tank, so we should end up with more tritium than we have started with. This is why we are using the breeding blanket. Unfortunately, there will be some of helium in the tritium tank, but we cannot really do a lot about it until we upgrade the column separation later. Okay, so this is how it works. You can see we are using very minimum radio heating to sustain the reaction, which is nice. Okay, now it started rising because the reaction is dying out, but again it's rising again, so the autocontrol is reducing it. We want to use minimum of this. If we are using if the autocontrol is using too much of the radio heating, you probably should charge the coils a little bit quicker, or you can also try to inject some more fuel. Okay, I think we can actually try for a little more power to quicken this up, but don't overdo it. So you see the hot salt temperature is steadily rising. As for the cold tank, I can still heat this up with the heater. And what you want here, like, you have to remember that the hot tank temperature will always depend on the cold tank temperature. You will never get a lot of difference between them. So actually you should also try to heat up the cold salt. You can do that by using bypass and transferring some of the hot salt back into the cold tank. So if I start doing it now, you will see that the cold tank temperature will also start rising. And so now the salt is just recirculating. So you probably want to do it like that, because if the cold salt is warmer, then also you will get higher hot salt temperature. But to be honest, I don't really know what is the exact best strategy to maintain this. So you'll have to figure it out yourself. Okay, let me add a little bit deuterium. Another thing,
if you look at the screens, this is the density, and these are components. So now we are looking at helium. This is deuterium, and this is tritium. You might be wondering, the reaction is going in the inside, but there's nothing there. It's just a matter of configuring the screens. So they have a minimum and maximum like threshold. So if you reduce the minimum, you should be able to see the stuff that is hidden there. Exactly. So you can see there is actually some matter here where the fusion takes place. It's a matter of setting up these screens. And this is the other, okay. Yeah, so this looks pretty good, pretty stable. Not much to do at this moment. So we are nicely building temperature in both tanks. And when you reach about 250 in the cold one, about 280 in the hot one, this is a moment where you can actually try to synchronize the turbine. I wouldn't suggest to rush this because once you synchronize the turbine, you actually have to sustain it, so you don't go reverse power. So I would like to have some like surplus of salt, of heat in the salt. So I would probably start the turbine during the second cycle of the salt. So when the cycle ends, when you reach about 3000 in the total mass, this is a moment where you should stop fueling. Then you can like continue still down to about 0.2 fuel ratio, and below 0.2 the reaction will naturally start to die out. So you can still continue, but it might not be worth it. Okay, the hot tank doesn't have a lot, so I will maybe reduce the amount I'm taking, because actually I should be building the hot tank to gather the energy, but okay, I think this is okay. Okay, so while this is happening, let me tell you about another thing. So there are certain roles. So you will have list of users here, and each user has a role. Okay, what is this? Non-optimal mix. Okay, too much deuterium. Let me reduce this. Oh, this is... Fusion shouldn't touch the walls. If it does, it's not good, because it's creating the other mass. I think that we should actually okay, this let me shut this down. Because this mass is too high to continue the reaction, but that's okay. So once the cycle ends, I'll just discharge everything. So we've burned the walls of the tokamak a little bit. Shouldn't do that. I'm not sure why it happened. So okay, fueling stopped. I can stop this helium,
And now make sure that this vent is off, because I would actually like to get this tritium back. So now I will enable the cryopumps, but now I want to put all this matter into these columns and back to the tanks. So once the coil is discharged, we should be pumping out this matter. Okay, this is happening. So about the roles, so each user can be either observer, trainee, operator, or supervisor. So usually supervisor is the first person on the server, and the other people joining are observers. And the supervisor can promote them to either trainees or operators. And while the supervisor can do anything on the server, so can buy upgrades if there is enough money, can do maintenance, salaries, can buy fuel. Other users, which are the trainees or operators, can also click all of this stuff, but this will cause a vote to happen, so they cannot like do it by themselves. If they call a vote, the majority of players will have to accept their vote, and they can also vote to change the roles. So for example, they can promote someone else for the supervisor. So this is how it is supposed to work. We'll see actually if it works well or not. Okay, this is looking good. Almost 300 degrees in the hot tank, although there's not a lot of the hot salt. 240 in the cold tank. This is pretty good. So we are removing everything and we'll refuel the tokamak for another run. So I usually go down to about 100 milligrams, and then so it's telling me all the time that the separation is low. The second column struggles here. Unfortunately, we will lose some tritium because the separation is not perfect, but it's not that of a problem. Okay, I think I can like refuel it again. So I'll do the same thing about, I want to have a similar ratio now. The trainee is a special role. As a supervisor, you can assign other like new players which you can see joining, and you can be afraid that they might mess up something, because observers cannot touch anything. So this is a safety like feature, so no trolls like join in and immediately destroy everything. So you can assign people to trainees, and if you press this highlight, you can see the white stuff is accessible by the trainees. So you can see they cannot access anything else than the turbine by default, but with right click, but you cannot have mouse unlocked for some reason. With right click you can like change the assignment, so you can take this away from them, or for example you can give these controls to them. So this way you can choose which stuff to allow to be used by the trainees. Okay, too much deuterium. And we are almost at 1000, so I will start charging the coil again. I will go again about 30%.
1000. Okay, let's start heating. We'll put this again at 3000 megawatts because I don't want to rush it. And remember to enable this helium to collect the tritium from the blanket. Just a quick check. This is on auto, this is on auto. It's okay. So the fusion should start just in a moment. So again, when the fusion starts, what I usually do, okay, check how is the power rising. Okay, it's rising slowly for a moment. We have just one cell of the fusion. Okay, now it started rising quickly, so I disable this heating. Now let's see what happens. Okay, I think I should start charging the coils because it's struggling to reach the defined. Okay. Actually, this is too large. It's touching the walls, which causes the other mass to appear. Hopefully this will. I will disable the heating for now. I think it needs to stabilize, like to burn a little hole inside. Okay, let's re-enable the heating. Doesn't always work as you would want it to. This is kind of interesting. Not okay. I think it's okay now. We've burnt a little bit of the walls, but this is just a little of the matter. So what I will do now, I will start injecting the fuel again, as usual, to try to keep it more or less constant. And I will actually charging the coils. Okay, I think I should add more of the horizontal coil. Okay, it's okay. Okay, let's rise. And now how we're looking here, the cold tank temperature actually dropped. Okay, what I want to do now is to start running up the turbine. So for the turbine preparation, I will just enable these pumps. So first thing you want to do is start the condenser air ejectors, the two yellow ones. They will reduce the pressure in the condenser initially. This will take a moment. Let me handle this. Okay, looks fine to me. Let's add a little more power. Yeah, you have to be really careful when starting the fusion because
it's not so well contained when everything is mixed. Now it's like came into some kind of a steady state, which is fine. Okay, just a little more tritium, and this looks perfectly stable now. I'm pretty satisfied here with how this is looking. Okay, let's go back to the turbine. So once the pressure in the condenser drops, you can then open the main steam isolation valve and you can start actually generating steam. This is pretty good temperature. Okay, you have to supervise this, like you cannot leave this unsupervised. So we are not using any radio heating at all. We are above our set point, but this is stable, so it seems okay to me. But pay attention, if this is rising, be ready to like discharge the coils. The main coil is already full. Okay, so we are below 500 millibars. Now I open the main steam isolation valve. I can open the bypass. And in order to start generating steam, I have to actually move the salt through this heat exchanger. So I will close the bypass here, and here you can use, if I now enable this pump, let me move it just a little, you will see that the temperature of water will start rising because I'm moving salt through the heat exchanger into the cold tank. So once this starts boiling, I will enable the auto control on the feed water pumps. What is this alarm? Okay. I should enable the the polisher now and two steam jet ejectors. And now once we are generating steam, I can enable the condenser pumps. They will now start condensating the steam, which will drop the pressure to the right amount. And you can use auto control here to generate the desired steam rate. So let me put this for a moment at say 250. Okay, it's hard to. Okay, auto control, and now the salt pump will adjust to generate about 250 kilograms per second of steam. How are we looking with the fusion? You see, we are now negative in the money, but you shouldn't really worry about this. It's natural, because when you are starting the whole thing, you really need to put a lot of energy into the salt. So let me heat up the cold salt with the heater. And see, we actually cannot like generate exactly what we want. This steam temperature is salt temperature is not that high yet, but it's okay. So what is happening here? Okay, just a little bit too much of tritium. Okay, the pressure is rising, so the condenser pressure is fine, the pressure here is rising, the water level is okay, so you can see the pressure right here. So
from about 3000 kilopascals you can actually start running up the turbine, but I will let the pressure rise a little bit more. I can actually reduce the bypass. Just don't reduce it to 0, because if you are not providing any steam to the condenser, then you might lose the vacuum, although these devices also oh, so this is fine. Okay, 4 megapascals. How is our cold tank looking? It's not really rising because the water is taking most of the heat, but we are building now a hot salt amount with a nice temperature over 300 degrees, so this is fine. Still few minutes left in the cycle, and I'm actually not okay, everything is at 100%, so the coils are charged. This is looking good, no issues here. Okay, so we are at 5000. I will now start the turbine, and you can do it manually if you want. I will close the bypass, or you can relay on the auto run up. If you want, you can just put this like this, and the auto control will work with turbine valve and also with bypass if needed. So the automatic synchronization is really simple, but doing it manually is more fun. So I will heat up the cold salt again. Okay, something is going bad here, so let me disable this heating. And discharge the coil, because okay, now I will re-enable this. Can we still keep this alive? Oh, I don't think so. Okay, so let's end the cycle here, discharge everything. So prepare for another cycle. Unfortunately, the fusion again touched the walls, not sure why. It's quite tricky to operate this. I don't even know myself how to do it properly, but as you can notice, we can now work with the turbine quite independently of the tokamak. So that's the whole idea of the salt circuit. We have gathered some hot salt, and we don't really care immediately about what is happening to the tokamak, because we can synchronize the turbine now. And prepare for another run here. Yes, we filled up the columns. Okay, I will vent the rest of the stuff. I don't want to wait. So let's just synchronize the turbine, which is the synchronize button.
Okay, should be good. Yeah, okay, auto pressure hold. Bypass closed. I will put this at 500. I'm not sure if it's going to give us 500 kilograms per second, but so the third cycle should actually make your... I use the second cycle to synchronize, and the third one should actually start making you money. But let's see if I can actually do it. Oh, I forgot to... That's my bad. Forgot to disable the injection. Okay, we are good. Okay, we have tritium, we have the deuterium. Blanket doesn't require replacement yet. Let's start charging here. It doesn't give us the preset 500. You have to be careful not to take a lot of output from the turbine until you have a comfortable amount of hot salt. So I will let the turbine just idle on this power for some time until I become like comfortable in running the reaction here. Okay, we have 30%. So, okay, I forgot to disable this again. And yeah, okay, I think I can start heating this up. So again, I will put this at 3000. The temperature dropped a little bit. So if you buy better insulation, this won't drop so quickly. So this is another upgrade which you might consider. Turbine is synchronized, the pressure is perfect. It's just like idling now. Okay, we have 1000. Let me stop this for a moment. Hopefully this... Yeah, actually I will try to start this on lower amount. For some reason, when the reaction starts, it becomes quite large, the whole thing. Maybe I should charge the other coils just a little bit. Not really sure. Probably these are the things that you need to figure out yourself, because I don't know myself how to run this properly. So how is this shape looking? Maybe I will add some of the horizontal coil. The horizontal coil should like press it from the sides. Although I'm not sure. Okay, this looks good. Let's increase the power. Let's put it at 3.5. And okay, start fueling this. This is rising too big, and when this happens, it's safe to disable the heating. Just for some time, let it kind of stabilize. Okay, I think it's okay. Okay, I think we should be fine now. And yeah, we definitely need to add more coil. Okay, I think we are pretty much fine now. Okay, cryostat temperature high. So maybe we can try to reduce the helium temperature a bit. So for the first time we are actually quite even, although the heating is taking a lot of our power. So let's add more coils here, and also let's try a little higher set point, 4,500. And this is the moment we should actually start generating some real power. Maybe not that high yet, because we still don't have a lot of in the hot tank. So at this moment I would switch off the auto control. I will put this at 50%, because I want to still have more coming into the hot tank than going out. So let me put this at maybe 35. I want to be like gathering for the next shutdown period. I want to be gathering the hot salt. So once I reduce the pump here, we will be reducing power production here, but this doesn't really matter that much. So tritium is dropping. Okay, let's charge the main coil to the maximum. So the pretty good strategy to be energy efficient is to actually try to maintain the high power with just the coils, while keeping the set point lower, just in case it dies out, like it happens now. So see, now we have temperature of the hot salt rising,
amount is also slowly rising. I think the 30% is pretty comfortable for the time we need to reload the tokamak again, but actually I would like this to rise more. And we are producing some energy now. We are even slightly positive, but this is not yet really satisfying. We might want to try even a little higher. Let's put all the coils now at the maximum. Okay, 6,000, no problems. So this hot tank is rising temperature nicely, and we are actually I wanted to say that we are earning, but not yet. Okay, let me try what would happen if I now disabled this heating. Will this... okay, it's actually... yeah. Will this self-sustain now? Because this heating, it's not... as you can see, it's pretty stable now, so maybe it's not worth to use the heating a lot on auto control. Use it for startup, but it's not perfect because the heating doesn't like one-to-one go into the output. The output depends on a lot of features, and if you have problems with maintaining this, you can always try to add some deuterium pellets. So let me show this to you. We are at deuterium, okay. Let's look at... so you see deuterium is mostly in the bottom part, but if I start injecting the pellets in the upper part, this should boost the reaction immediately. So this is how you select where to inject the pellets. Actually nothing's happening. Okay, let me heat this up. The pellets usually help in the reaction because you can inject them in the region which is like rich in tritium. Okay, what's happening now? So this is another way to control the reaction by like mixing the matter better in the core. And unfortunately the pellets you will have to buy them, but the deuterium pellets are pretty cheap, so it's not such a big deal. Okay, we are now 7,000, and you can see how the shape of the fusion region changed. It went up, and now it's burning mostly in the part where I injected the pellets, so that's pretty good. So this is like another way to control the reaction when you are 100% on coils. You don't want to use the heating, so you can just try injecting the pellets. So I would suggest to use only the deuterium pellets because tritium pellets are much more expensive. And so you can see now the reaction in this part is stronger, Okay, what is this alarm? Non-optimal mix. Yeah, because I've added a lot of. Okay, mass. The mass is now too high. Okay, that's not a problem. So we can, for some time, like, keep this reaction alive. But we will have to shut down soon. But you can see we have started to produce real energy now, and hopefully we will continue. Okay, this heating is taking a lot of energy, so I will disable it for now. So probably we should shut down soon. So if the reaction dies out, as apparently it does, I will just start preparing for another run. But now we should have a constant inflow of money, and this is the moment, about 1 hour into the game, where you should actually start going even and earning money. So pay attention to this hot salt tank amount. If it's dropping too quickly, you might want to reduce this pump so you don't run out of your heat. So there's no problem if I reduce this a little bit and just produce less money for some time, but I will be safe without the fear that the turbine would trip. Okay. Okay, I should disable this. Actually, I think I can have more. So it takes just a moment to refuel the tokamak. So probably I won't use more than 10% of this tank. So I still should have plenty of time. So I hope this guide is useful to you. The game is challenging. It's difficult even for me. But once you spend the first hour starting this up and heating this up, once you have this kind of configuration, it really starts to shine. So this will be the 4th cycle. Probably I won't be doing more. So let's just see how it is going to work in the 4th cycle, and maybe I will manage to go out of the negatives for the first time. As you can see, I'm still over 30%. I will put more. This not only produces more energy, but will also rise the temperature of the cold tank, which is also kind of beneficial to me. So it's the same procedure.
will put this at 3000 again. So it's actually, when you are starting after the refueling, you have to be really careful. As I noticed, I will maybe put a little more here on the main coil, because for some reason, due to the way how it is mixed at the beginning, the reaction actually not happens in the center part, but it also happens outside. This is something we don't really want. So maybe I should start with lower heating and kind of higher coils, but I'm not actually sure myself. This is something you probably have to experiment and find out. And don't start with a large mass, because this will only boost the effect. So maybe I will stop actually the fueling here. Let's try what happens at this mass, a little less than 1000. Maybe this will be more like compressed into the center. Okay, 28%, but I'm starting the reaction already. A little more deuterium. Okay, the reaction is starting. We'll add a little bit of this. Okay, forgot about this. Okay, let's see what happens now. Okay, I think I can start rising the coils safely. And stop it at 2000. Let me put this at 3000 for now. Start injecting fuel. Okay. This is looking good. Okay. And let's put about 5000 here. More of the main coil. Okay, watch the cryostat temperature, but it's fine.
Okay, I will try a bit with the pellets now. I want to disable this heating because it's taking a lot of power. Okay, this is a lot. This is a bit too much. Okay. Okay, so now I should aim to increase the amount of hot salt. This pump is higher, so actually it's rising, but not very quickly. Okay, maybe let's try putting some tritium pellets now. Because the power is dropping and I don't want to use the heating, although I see I will have to do it because the reaction is dying out now. Whoa, it ate out all the center. Interesting. Okay, so after 4 cycles I didn't manage to get out to the positive, although I think I'm pretty close of doing this. So this is probably a moment we should start thinking about replacing the blanket. It's not yet that moment. It's pretty costly. And when it goes below like 30%, I would consider replacing it, because we can run out of tritium. We don't have a lot of it. Okay, I'm just wondering, we are working at full radio heating now, still on positive energy, but not really making a lot. I'm wondering if it's really worth it to run like that, or maybe I should just like stop it and refuel the tokamak again. Okay, I think I will stop this. So let's put this at 0. Discharge. And the interesting part is that I will probably go out onto positives while not having a reaction at all. I haven't built a lot of hot salt, so still it's about a bit risky to output this amount of power, but on the other hand, it would be beneficial if I went into some efficient boosting upgrades, like for example preheaters, which are very cheap. So actually 25% of the tritium tank is helium. Not perfect. Okay, so we are on positive now. Although when I start heating, I will go negative again. Or maybe not. So the helium comes from the tritium tank due to bad separation of the elements. Oh, it didn't go. Well, it's actually hard to achieve the high power now due to this helium. Okay, maybe let's put this at 100%. Let's see what happens. I want to fill this tank quicker. Okay, let's put this at 100% and see how much power we can actually produce. Oh, pressure high. Okay, this is too much. Okay, I will put this at 3000. I don't want to use a lot of heating. 3000 should be actually even more than enough to like keep this turbine running. Okay, as I have 1000, probably I would buy a preheater to boost the efficiency of my turbine. Okay, this auto control is a bit crazy, so let me start setting this up manually. Okay guys, I think showed you enough. Does it work? Probably I should be buying the... Oh, I forgot this. I should be buying the blanket now. And you can buy
all this stuff can be bought even if you are on the negatives, so that's not a problem. So as you can see, this game is challenging. There will be some balancing like updates coming after we gather some feedback, because I really need some feedback from you. If it is too hard, I will probably help a bit by changing some of the parameters, although in the beta test we had players who like earned thousands of they had thousands of income, so it's possible to do. I'm not really that good at this game myself, so it takes a lot of time for me to earn any substantial money. Oh, we got an event. Luckily this was a short one. I hope the screen come back in 2 minutes. Interesting. And in the meantime, I should probably buy the second preheater. Okay guys, so I think this is enough. It was really interesting running this. Hope you will have fun with this, and hope you will teach me how to play it properly, because apparently I cannot do it yet, although I know some basics. So see you, and thank you for your attention. Bye.